Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the U.E.'s horizon and watched his world die. Through the cracked windows of his ship, he could see the stars spinning slowly. The ship was tumbling through space like a broken toy. Red lights flashed. Everywhere, alarms buzzed in his ears. The smell of burned circuits filled the air. "Captain, we lost another engine," said Chief Engineer Ryan Walsh. His voice was tired. He had not slept in 3 days. None of them had. "The ship won't hold together much longer." Jake looked at the status screens. Everything was red. Life support was failing. The hull had dozens of holes in it. The Zephyrian attack had left them with almost nothing. 50,000 people were on this ship. They were all that was left of humanity's colonies. Every other world had been destroyed. Dr. Lisa Carter worked at her station. Her fingers moved fast over the controls. She was trying to fix the communications system. Sweat ran down her face. "I think I can get one more transmission out," she said, "but it will burn out everything we have left." Jake thought about the last few months. The Zephyrians had come from nowhere. Their crystal ships appeared in human space and started destroying everything. They did not talk. They did not warn anyone. They just killed. World after world fell to their weapons. The first attack was on New Denver. 60 million people lived there. The Zephyrians turned the whole planet into glass in 6 hours. Then came New York Prime, then Haven Colony, then Sanctuary. Each time, the crystal ships arrived and left nothing but death. "Sir, we're getting reports from the other ships," said Lieutenant Ben Adams. His young face was pale. "The transport ship Liberty is losing air fast. The medical ship Hope went dark an hour ago." Jake closed his eyes. When this started, they had a fleet of 30 ships. Now only 5 were left. The Horizon was the biggest. It carried most of the survivors. If it died, humanity's last hope died with it. "Captain," Lisa said, "I have the transmitter ready. What do you want to say?" Jake walked to the communication station. "What do you say when your entire species is about to die? How do you ask for help when you don't even know if anyone is listening?" "Open all channels," he said. "Send it on every frequency we know." Lisa nodded and pressed the controls. A green light appeared on her screen. Jake took a deep breath. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the United Earthship Horizon. We are the last survivors of the human colonies. The Zephyrian Collective has destroyed our worlds. Our people are dying. We have maybe 6 hours of life support left." He paused. Around him, the bridge crew listened. Some had tears in their eyes. "If anyone receives this message, we need help. We're sending our coordinates. We have 50,000 civilians on board. Most are children. If there's anyone out there who remembers Earth, who remembers humanity, please help us. We're not asking for much. Just a chance to live. Just a chance for our children to see tomorrow." The transmission lasted 2 minutes. Jake told whoever might be listening about the attacks. He described the crystal ships and their terrible weapons. He begged for help. When he finished, Lisa sent the message with their location. "Message sent, Captain," she said. Then the communications board exploded in sparks. Lisa jumped back as smoke filled the air. "That's it. We're deaf and blind now." Jake nodded. They had done all they could. Now they could only wait and hope. Someone heard them. "Ryan, how long do we have?" Jake asked. The engineer checked his readings. 6 hours for life support. Maybe 8 if we shut down everything except basic life functions. The hull will hold until then, but just barely. Jake made the announcement to the ship. He told everyone what was happening. Some people cried. Others prayed. Many just held their families close. The children didn't understand why the adults looked so scared. Hours passed. The ship grew colder as they shut down the heating system. The lights dimmed to save power. In the medical bay, Dr. Carol Stevens worked to keep the wounded alive as long as possible. In the schools, teachers told stories to keep the children calm. Jake stayed on the bridge. He watched the screens and hoped for a miracle. The other ships, in their small fleet, were dying one by one. The transport ship Liberty finally lost all power. The cargo ship Freedom went silent. Soon, only the horizon would be left. "Captain," said Lieutenant Adams. His voice was strange. "I'm reading something odd on the sensors." Jake looked at the screen. There were new signals appearing at the edge of sensor range. The patterns were not like anything he had seen before. "What is it?" Jake asked. "I don't know, sir." "The energy. Readings are huge. Whatever is out there, it's big, really big." Lisa managed to get a backup sensor working. The signals were getting stronger and closer. "Captain," she said, "those energy patterns. They're not Zephyrian. They're something else entirely." Jake felt something he had not felt in months. Hope. Maybe, just maybe, someone had heard their call for help. Maybe they were not alone after all. The signals kept coming, more and more of them. Whatever was out there was not just one ship. It was many ships. A whole fleet. "Sir," Adam said, "whatever those ships are, they're heading straight for us." Jake gripped the rail of his command chair. In a few hours, they would know if their desperate message had brought salvation or just another enemy. Either way, the long wait was almost over. 3 days before the horizon sent its desperate message, Admiral Kate Sullivan was drinking coffee in her office, deep under the surface of Mars. The red planet looked calm from the outside, but beneath its dusty surface lay the most secret military base humanity had ever built. The coffee was still hot when the alarm started. Kate almost dropped her cup as red lights flashed on her desk. A computer voice spoke in the empty room. "Alert! Priority Alpha message received. Project Lazarus protocols activated." Kate set down her coffee and stared at the screen. She had not seen these warnings in 20 years of service. Most people thought Project Lazarus was just a story. They were wrong. She pressed her hand on the scanner. The security system read her fingerprints and DNA. Then it scanned her eyes. Finally, the door to the command center opened. The room beyond was huge. Dozens of screens covered the walls. Men and women in military uniforms worked at control stations. This was the heart of the Terran Defense Fleet, Earth's most secret weapon. "Report," Kate said as she walked to the main command station. Colonel Dan Hayes turned from his screen. His face was grim. "Admiral, we received an automated alert from the Deep Space Monitoring Network. One of our listening posts picked up a distress call." Kate read the message on the screen. The words made her blood run cold. The colonies were gone. The Zephyrians had found them. "How long ago did this happen?" she asked. "The attack on the first colony was 3 months ago," said Captain Amy Rodriguez. She was the fleet's intelligence officer. "The aliens have been moving through human space systematically. They're not just attacking, they're studying us." Kate had known this day would come. For 200 years, the Terran Defense Fleet had waited in hidden bases throughout the solar system, while the colonies spread across the galaxy in peaceful exploration. Earth kept its weapons ready. The TDF was different from the colony ships. There were no families on these vessels. No scientists or farmers or teachers. Only soldiers. Only weapons. Only ships built for one purpose. War. "Begin awakening protocols," Kate ordered. "All ships, all crews. I want the entire fleet ready." In 12 hours, the command center buzzed with activity. Officers sent signals to hidden bases on the moon, in the asteroid belt, and in the outer system. In those dark places, ships had waited in silence for centuries. Now they were waking. Colonel Hayes brought up the fleet roster on the main screen. 237 ships of various sizes. The big ones were dreadnoughts, like the TDS Retribution, Kate's flagship. The smaller ones were destroyers and cruisers like the TDS Reaper and TDS Vengeance. Each ship carried weapons that the colonies had never seen. While the exploration fleets used energy shields and mining lasers for protection, the TDF had built pure warships. They had railguns that could punch through asteroids. They had missiles that could track targets across star systems. They had fighters that moved faster than anything the galaxy had ever seen. Status report on ship awakening, Kate said. Crews are coming out of cryosleep now, Hayes replied. The ships are running diagnostics on all systems. Weapons, engines, life support, everything is checking out green. Kate nodded. The crews were special too. Every man and woman in the TDF had volunteered for this duty. They knew they might sleep for decades or centuries before being called to fight. Many had been asleep for 50 years or more, not Captain Amy. Rodriguez pulled up intelligence files on her screen. Admiral, we've been tracking the Zephyrians for 30 years. They're not a new threat. Our deep space scouts have been watching them since they first appeared in this part of the galaxy. The files showed images of crystal ships. The aliens inside looked like living glass. They moved with perfect order and precision. Every ship in their fleet was exactly the same. Every attack followed the same pattern. What do we know about their technology? Kate asked. Advanced, Amy said. Their ships are grown rather than built. The hulls are made of some kind of living crystal that can repair itself. Their weapons use focused energy beams that can cut through most known materials. Kate studied the images. The Zephyrian ships were beautiful in a cold way, like deadly jewels floating in space, but she had seen what they could do to human worlds. Their weakness? She asked. Amy smiled for the first time in days. They think in patterns. Everything they do follows a set plan. They can't adapt when something unexpected happens. Our analysts think they've never fought anyone who doesn't follow their rules. Kate understood. The Zephyrians had never fought humans before. They had never faced an enemy from a death world. Earth was what galactic scientists called a death world. It was a planet so hostile to life that only the toughest species could survive there. Most worlds in the galaxy were gentle places with calm weather and few predators. Earth was different. Earth made its children fight for every breath. That fighting spirit had followed humans to the stars. While other species built their ships for comfort and efficiency, humans built theirs to survive anything. While other species avoided conflict, humans had turned war into an art. How long before the fleet is ready? Kate asked. 4 hours for the first wave, Hayes said. 12 hours for the full fleet. Kate made her decision. Send the first wave immediately. I want scouts in human colonial space within 6 hours. The main fleet will follow as soon as it's ready. She walked to the communication station. It was time to wake up Earth's sleeping giant. This is Admiral Kate Sullivan, commanding the Terran Defense Fleet, she said into the microphone. For 2 centuries, we have waited in silence. We have watched from the shadows while our people spread across the stars. Today, that watch ends. Her voice carried to every ship in the fleet. Crews who had been asleep for decades listened to their commander's words. The colonies are under attack. Our people are dying. The enemy thinks humans are weak because we come from a small blue world they've never heard of. They're about to learn how wrong they are. Kate paused and looked at the screens showing the fleet coming to life. Engines were warming up. Weapons were being loaded. Fighters were being prepped for launch. This is not a rescue mission, she continued. This is not a peacekeeping operation. This is war. Total war. We will find every enemy ship. We will destroy every enemy base. We will make sure they never threatened humanity again." She ended the transmission and turned to her officers. "Colonel Hayes, take the first wave and head for the horizon's last known position. Captain Rodriguez, I want detailed battle plans for every Zephyrian ship type we know about. And get me everything our spies have learned about their home system." The command center exploded into action. For the first time in 200 years, Earth was going to war, and the galaxy was about to learn why smart species avoided death worlds. Colonel Dan Hayes stood on the bridge of the TDS Reaper and watched the enemy die. The Zephyrian patrol ship broke apart in a shower of crystal fragments. It had been beautiful once, like a piece of living art floating in space. Now it was just debris. "That's the third one today," said Lieutenant Ben Parker from the weapons station. The young officer looked pleased with himself. These crystal ships aren't so tough after all. Dan wasn't so sure. The Zephyrians had better technology and more ships. But they fought like computers, following perfect patterns and strategies. Humans fought like animals backed into a corner. Sometimes that made all the difference. "Status report," Dan ordered. "All systems green," reported his first officer, Commander Lisa Park. "We took some minor damage to the port shields, but nothing serious. The enemy weapons are powerful, but they're predictable." Dan nodded. That was the key word, predictable. Every Zephyrian ship they had fought used the same tactics. They approached at optimal range. They fired at calculated intervals. They followed textbook strategies that any military academy would approve of, but humans didn't go to normal military academies. They came from Earth. The communications officer spoke up. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the TDS Fury. Captain Martinez says she's found something we need to see." Dan ordered the Reaper to rendezvous with the other ship. When they arrived, Captain Helen Martinez was waiting with a hologram of something that made Dan's blood run cold. It was a human colony world, or what was left of one. The planet's surface was covered in massive mining operations. Huge machines dug into the ground and extracted something from deep beneath the surface. "They're not just destroying our colonies," Helen explained. "They're strip mining them. Our science team thinks they're looking for something specific." Dan studied the images. "Any idea what?" "Dr. Sam Foster thinks it's biological," Helen said. "They're digging up the graveyards and medical facilities. Anywhere human genetic material might be stored." The idea sent a chill down Dan's spine. Why would the Zephyrians want human DNA? His question was answered an hour later when they intercepted a Zephyrian data transmission. The ship's computer translated the alien language, and what they learned changed everything. The Zephyrians called Earth a prime death world. They had been studying humanity for decades, watching from a distance as humans spread across the galaxy. They were fascinated by what they called chaos adaptation. Most species in the galaxy evolved on gentle worlds with stable climates and few dangers. They developed advanced technology and peaceful societies. But they also became predictable and rigid in their thinking. Earth was different. For millions of years, it had tried to kill everything that lived on it. Ice ages, asteroid impacts, volcanic eruptions, predators, diseases, natural disasters. Only the most adaptable species survived. And humans were the most adaptable of all. The Zephyrians had discovered that human brains were unique in the galaxy, where other species thought. In logical patterns, humans could make impossible connections and find solutions that shouldn't work. They called it death world cognition. They want to harvest it, Dr. Foster explained during a video call from the research ship TDS Discovery. They want to study our brains and figure out how to duplicate our type of thinking. Dan felt sick. The aliens weren't just trying to conquer humanity. They wanted to farm them. The doctor continued his briefing. But there's something else. Our analysis of their ship designs shows they have a major weakness. Their crystalline structure makes them incredibly strong, but also incredibly brittle. The right kind of resonance frequency could shatter them like glass. What kind of frequency? Dan asked. Something in the range of human vocal cords, Foster said. Specifically, the frequency range of a human scream. Dan stared at the screen. Are you telling me we can literally scream these things to death? Not exactly, Foster replied. But we can build weapons that produce the same frequencies. Sonic. Disruptors tuned to the crystalline resonance of their ships. Within hours, every ship in the advanced fleet was working to modify their weapon systems. The humans took their mining lasers and communication arrays and turned them into sonic weapons. It wasn't elegant, but it worked. The first test came when they encountered a Zephyrian battle group near the ruins of Haven Colony. The enemy formation included 12 ships arranged in perfect geometric patterns. Their leader broadcast a surrender. Demand in perfect galactic standard language. Dan's response was to order all ships to open fire with their new sonic weapons. The effect was immediate and devastating. The crystalline hulls of the Zephyrian ships began to vibrate. Cracks appeared along their surfaces. Within minutes, the entire enemy formation was shaking itself apart. But the real shock came when one of the weapons malfunctioned on the TDS. Fury. The sonic beam hit the wrong frequency, and instead of destroying the enemy ship, it did something impossible. It made the Zephyrian crew scream. The aliens, it turned out, felt pain just like any other living creature. And the frequency that destroyed their ships also caused them agony. Lieutenant Parker smiled grimly as he watched the enemy fleet die. I guess they never fought anyone who knew how to hurt them before. Dan was already thinking ahead. If the advanced fleet could do this much damage with improvised weapons, what could the main fleet do with purpose-built sonic destroyers? More importantly, what would happen when Admiral Sullivan arrived with the big ships? The Zephyrians had never faced Earth's main battle fleet. They had no idea what humans could do when they really got angry. The communication system crackled with a message from deep space. Admiral Sullivan's voice was calm and professional, but Dan could hear the steel underneath. All units, this is Admiral Sullivan aboard the TDS Retribution. The main fleet is 4 hours out from your position. Prepare for full-scale operations. We're going to show these crystal freaks why you don't mess with Deathworld predators. Done. Looked out at the wreckage of the Zephyrian patrol fleet. The aliens had thought they were hunting defenseless prey. Instead, they had awakened something that had been sleeping in the dark between the stars. Earth's children were coming home, and they were bringing their guns. The hunt was about to begin. The U.E.'s horizon was dying when the Terran Defense Fleet arrived. Captain Jake Morrison watched through the bridge windows as massive warships appeared out of nowhere. These weren't the gentle exploration vessels he knew. These were pure weapons. Of War. The lead ship was bigger than anything Jake had ever seen. Its hull was black as space itself, covered in weapon ports and armor plating. When it spoke, the voice was calm and professional. U.E.S. Horizon, this is Admiral Kate Sullivan of the Terran Defense Fleet. We received your distress call. Prepare for emergency evacuation. Jake could barely speak. He had never heard of the Terran Defense Fleet. As far as he knew, Earth only. Had exploration ships and colony transports. Where had these warships come from? Admiral, this is Captain Morrison. We have 50,000 civilians on board. Life support is failing. We have maybe 2 hours left. Understood, Captain. The TDS Salvation is moving into position for emergency docking. Captain Helen Martinez will coordinate the evacuation. All other ships, defensive positions. We have Zephyrian forces inbound. Jake looked at his sensors. The Zephyrian fleet was huge. Over 100 crystal ships were approaching fast. But the human fleet didn't seem worried. If anything, they looked eager for a fight. The evacuation began immediately. The TDS Salvation was a massive ship designed to carry troops and supplies. Its cargo bays were quickly converted into refugee shelters. Captain Martinez worked with smooth efficiency, organizing the transfer of civilians from the dying horizon. But Jake stayed on his bridge. He wanted to see what would happen when Earth's secret fleet met the aliens who had destroyed his world. The battle began an hour later. The Zephyrian ships approached in perfect formation, their crystal hulls gleaming. In the starlight, they broadcast surrender demands in multiple languages. They expected the humans to give up or run away. Instead, Admiral Sullivan's voice cut across all frequencies. Zephyrian vessels, this is Admiral Kate Sullivan of Earth. You have attacked our colonies. You have murdered our people. You have made a mistake that will cost you everything. The Zephyrian response was immediate. Energy beams lanced out from their ships, powerful enough to vaporize asteroids. But the human ships were ready. Their shields absorbed the attacks while they closed the distance. Then the humans opened. Jake had never seen weapons like these. Beams of pure sound struck the crystal ships and made them scream. The perfect geometric hulls began to crack and shatter. Zephyrian ships that had seemed invincible moments before started breaking apart. But the real shock came when the smaller human ships began their attack runs. They moved in ways that made no sense, using maneuvers that should have been impossible. They flew through asteroid fields and used the debris as weapons. They turned their own damaged ships into guided missiles. Captain Amy Rodriguez of the TDS Vengeance led one attack that Jake would never forget. Her ship was outnumbered 5-1, surrounded by Zephyrian cruisers. Instead of retreating, she flew directly into the middle of the enemy formation and detonated a sonic bomb. The explosion shattered every Zephyrian ship within 10 kilometers. Rodriguez's ship was damaged, but survived. The enemy formation was completely destroyed. How did you do that? Jake asked over the communication channel. Deathworld tactics, Rodriguez replied. Sometimes the best defense is a really good offense. While the battle raged, Commander Tom Bell's intelligence team was working on something even more important. They had captured a Zephyrian communication node and were breaking their encryption codes. What they found made everyone sick. The Zephyrians weren't just randomly attacking human colonies. They were conducting what they called a cognitive harvest. They had been studying human neural tissue and genetic material for months, trying to understand what made Deathworld minds work. The aliens had discovered that human consciousness was unique in the galaxy. Where other species thought in logical patterns, humans could make impossible connections and find solutions that defied conventional wisdom. The Zephyrians wanted to extract this ability and use it for themselves. They're not trying to conquer us, Tom reported to Admiral Sullivan. They're trying to farm us. They want to turn humans into a biological resource. Sullivan's response was immediate and terrifying. All ships, priority target revision. This is no longer a rescue operation. This is an extermination mission. No Zephyrian ship leaves this system alive. The human fleet's tactics became even more aggressive. Ships that had been fighting defensively now went on the hunt. They pursued fleeing Zephyrian vessels and destroyed them without mercy. Dr. Sam Foster's research team made another discovery during the battle. The sonic weapons weren't just destroying Zephyrian ships. They were causing the aliens physical pain. The crystalline creatures could feel agony just like any biological organism. Their entire society is built around avoiding pain and disorder, Foster explained. They've never fought an enemy that actively tries to cause suffering. They don't know how to handle it. The psychological warfare began immediately. Human ships broadcast recordings of their sonic weapons on all Zephyrian frequencies. The sound of their own ships screaming and dying drove the alien crews into panic. Some Zephyrian ships tried to surrender. Admiral Sullivan's response was simple. No quarter. They wanted to harvest us. Now they get to see what humans do to things that hunt their children. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it was over, the Zephyrian fleet was completely destroyed. Not a single alien ship escaped. The space around the horizon was filled with crystal debris that caught the starlight like deadly snow. Jake watched from his bridge as the last Zephyrian ship died. The crystal hull shattered in silence, its crew's final screams echoing across the communication frequencies. "Admiral," Jake said, "what happens now?" Sullivan's voice was cold as space. "Now we go hunting. The Zephyrians wanted to harvest humanity. Time to show them what happens when you try to farm a Deathworld species." The evacuation was completed quickly. The 50,000 survivors from the horizon were transferred to the fleet's support ships. Medical teams worked to treat the wounded, while psychologists helped the traumatized civilians cope with what they had experienced. But Jake noticed that many of the survivors were asking the same question he had. Where had this fleet come from? How long had Earth been hiding such powerful weapons? Captain Martinez answered when she came aboard the Horizon to oversee the final evacuation. Earth never forgot that the galaxy is a dangerous place. While the colonies spread peace and exploration, we prepared for war. We've been waiting in the dark for 200 years. Waiting for what? Jake asked. For something like this. For an enemy that threatened our entire species. For a moment when Earth's children needed their protectors. Martinez looked out at the massive fleet surrounding them. Hundreds of warships bristling with weapons that could shatter worlds. The Zephyrians thought they were hunting prey. Instead, they woke up the apex predator of a death world. Now they're going to learn why that was a mistake. As the fleet prepared to move deeper into Zephyrian space, Jake realized that the war was just beginning. The aliens had wanted to harvest humanity's unique consciousness. Instead, they had unleashed something far more dangerous. Human rage focused into a weapon of war. The galaxy was about to discover what happened when Deathworld predators decided you were a threat to their young. The Zephyrian home system was the most beautiful thing Admiral Kate Sullivan had ever seen. 3 crystal worlds orbited a binary star, their surfaces covered in cities that looked like living jewels. Massive space stations floated between the planets, connected by streams of pure light. It was also the most heavily defended system in the galaxy. "Sensor report," Kate ordered from the bridge of the TDS Retribution. "Over 3,000 enemy ships," reported Commander Lisa Park. "Everything from patrol boats to dreadnoughts. They've had months to prepare for us." Kate studied the tactical display. The Zephyrian fleet was arranged in perfect defensive formations around their homeworld. Every ship was in exactly the right position. Every weapon was aimed at the optimal firing angle. It was a textbook defense that should have been impossible to break, but the Zephyrians had never fought humans before. "Signal the fleet," Kate ordered. "Execute Plan Chaos." Plan Chaos was something no sane military commander would ever attempt. Instead of attacking the strongest points in the enemy defense, a human fleet split into dozens of small groups and attacked everywhere at once. Ships flew through debris fields and used asteroids as cover. Fighters launched suicide runs against enemy command ships. Destroyers rammed crystal dreadnoughts and detonated their sonic weapons at point-blank range. To any normal military observer, it looked like madness. The human fleet was outnumbered 10 to 1. Their ships were smaller and less advanced. By every rule of space combat, they should have been destroyed in minutes, but humans didn't follow rules. They followed instincts learned on a world that had spent millions of years trying to kill them. Captain Amy Rodriguez led the first wave in. the TD's vengeance. Her target was a massive space station that served as the enemy's command center. The station was protected by hundreds of ships and defensive platforms. Rodriguez flew straight through them. Her ship took massive damage as enemy weapons tore at its hull. The shields failed. The armor cracked. Half her crew was injured or dead. But she kept flying, using debris and explosions to mask her approach. When she reached the space station, she didn't fire her weapons. Instead, she rammed her ship directly into the station's crystal core and detonated every sonic weapon she had. The explosion shattered the entire structure. But more importantly, it sent resonance waves through the crystalline network that connected all Zephyrian facilities. For the first time in their history, the aliens experienced system-wide chaos. Their command structure is breaking down, reported Commander Tom Bell from his intelligence station. The resonance cascade is disrupting their communications network. They can't coordinate their defense. Kate smiled grimly. The Zephyrians had built their entire civilization around order and precision. Take that away, and they didn't know how to fight. But the humans were just getting started. Colonel Dan Hayes led a strike team to the surface of the main planet. His mission was to find and destroy the central processing facility, where the Zephyrians analyzed harvested genetic material from conquered species. What he found was worse than anyone had imagined. The facility was a massive complex built into the planet's crust. Inside, thousands of chambers contained genetic samples from hundreds of different species. Most were extinct now, harvested to extinction by the Zephyr. IENS. In the center of the complex was a special section labeled in the alien language. The translation made Dan's blood boil. Deathworld specimens, priority research. The chambers contained human remains from every destroyed colony. Brain tissue, DNA samples, neural networks preserved in crystal matrices. The Zephyrians had been studying humanity's cognitive patterns, trying to understand what made Deathworld minds so adaptable. Burn it, Dan ordered. Burn it all. His team planted sonic charges throughout the facility. The explosions didn't just destroy the research. They sent resonance waves through the planet's crystal core, causing earthquakes that shattered cities across the surface. While the ground assault continued, Dr. Sam Foster made the discovery that would end the war. Working from his laboratory ship, Foster had been studying captured Zephyrian technology. He found something the aliens had hidden even from themselves. They were dying as a species. Their crystalline bodies were beautiful and nearly immortal, but they had lost the ability to adapt. For thousands of years, they had conquered other species and stolen their biological innovations. Without that constant input of new genetic material, they would slowly fade away. They need us more than they want to admit, Foster explained to the fleet commanders. Their entire civilization depends on harvesting other species. If we cut off that supply, they're finished. Kate saw the opportunity immediately. Can we poison their genetic databases? Better than that, Foster replied. I can introduce a virus into their crystalline matrix, something that will make them incompatible with any biological material except human. If they want to survive, they'll have to negotiate with us. The virus was deployed through the sonic weapons. Every time a human ship destroyed a Zephyrian vessel, it released microscopic agents that spread through their communication networks. Within hours, the infection had reached every crystal ship and space station in the system. The effect was immediate and devastating. Zephyrian ships began malfunctioning as their biological interfaces rejected non-human genetic patterns. Weapon systems failed. Life support broke down. The perfect order of their fleet dissolved into chaos. That's when their leaders finally tried to communicate. The message came on all human frequencies. A Zephyrian voice spoke in perfect galactic standard. offering immediate surrender and negotiations. Kate's response was broadcast across the entire system. You wanted to harvest us. You wanted to turn my species into cattle. Now you're going to learn what humans do to things that threaten our children. The final battle lasted 12 hours. It wasn't really a battle at all. It was an execution. Human ships hunted down every remaining Zephyrian vessel and destroyed it without mercy. The crystal cities on the surface were shattered by orbital bombardment. The space stations were reduced to glittering debris. When it was over, the Zephyrian collective was extinct. Standing on the bridge of the Retribution, Kate looked out at the wreckage of an entire civilization. Part of her felt sick at the destruction, but a larger part felt satisfied. The galaxy's most dangerous predators had learned what happened when they hunted Earth's children. "Admiral," said Captain Helen Martinez over the communication system, "we're receiving surrender offers from 12 other species. Apparently, word of what happened here is spreading fast." Kate wasn't surprised. News traveled quickly in the galaxy. By now, every species knew that humans weren't the peaceful explorers they had pretended to be. Earth had revealed its true nature, a death world that raised apex predators. "Send the same message to all of them," Kate ordered. "Earth is no longer hiding. We know the galaxy is full of species that would harvest us if they could. From now on, we strike first." The fleet began its journey home, but Kate knew they wouldn't be staying. Earth was awake now. The peaceful age of exploration was over. Humanity had learned that the galaxy was full of monsters. Time to show them what real monsters looked like. Captain Jake Morrison, now recovered from his ordeal aboard the Horizon, stood in the observation deck of the TDS Retribution and watched the stars. 3 months ago, he had been the captain of a peaceful colony ship. Now he wore the uniform of the Terran Defense Fleet. The transformation hadn't been easy. Jake had seen things during the evacuation and the war that would stay with him forever. The sight of crystal ships screaming as they died. The sound of alien voices begging for mercy that never came. The cold efficiency with which the TDF had wiped out an entire species. But he had also seen what the Zephyrians did to human colonies. He had watched children die while the aliens harvested their parents for genetic material. Sometimes mercy was a luxury that Deathworld species couldn't afford. "Captain Morrison to the bridge," came the announcement over the ship's speakers. Jake made his way through corridors filled with soldiers and weapons. The Retribution wasn't like the Horizon. There were no families here, no civilians. Only warriors preparing for the next fight. Admiral Sullivan was waiting for him on the bridge. She looked tired but satisfied. Behind her, the main screen showed a map of the galaxy with red markers scattered across it. "Jake," she said, "I have a new assignment for you. The Intelligence Division has identified 37 species that pose potential threats to humanity. Some have technologies we need. Others have resources we want. All of them have shown hostile intentions toward human space." Jake studied the map. Each red marker represented an entire civilization. Billions of lives. "What are my orders?" "You're taking command of the TDS Horizon," Sullivan said. "It's a new ship named after your old one. Your mission is to visit each of these systems and deliver a message." "What message?" Sullivan's smile was cold as space. "That Earth remembers its children. That humanity is no longer hiding. And that any species that threatens us will face the same fate as the Zephyrians." Jake nodded slowly. He understood what was happening. The galaxy had seen Earth as weak because humans seemed peaceful. They had never imagined that the peaceful explorers had a hidden fleet of warships waiting in the dark. Now that secret was out. Every species in the